Hey. Whoop. Hello. Testing. Hey, can you hear me now? I hope so. Anyway, welcome to video number 2. Because guess what? It's still Sunday and I'm still recording. But I'm doing a second video trying to get caught up a little bit because like I said, I'm really convicted of trying to be an encouragement. So that's what my goal is. If you're new to this channel, my name's Lewis, and what I intend to do is just provide daily encouragement from the book you see on the screen right there, Bible, because I feel like we spend so much time trying to gain wisdom, which, don't get me wrong, I'm not against education, I'm not against self-help, I'm not against books. I've got a ton of books here, and I'll probably reference some of them as the year goes on and more videos are made. But I think the foundation, the basis of where we should be starting is this book right here. And so today I'm going to do something, or at least for this video, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to discuss what I consider my life's verse. Now, for those that don't know, in case you're really new to Christianity or just you've never heard this term before, what ends up occurring a lot is there will be a verse that someone holds dear because God used it in their life to really speak to them, to get a hold of them, and to make it they made it applicable in their life, and through every trial and tribulation that person has gone through, they have held on to that verse. They've just lived the verse, if I could say it that way. Some people may pick a common verse like a John 3:16, which says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." Nothing wrong with that at all. Some people will choose less common verses, and you know what? There's not a correct way. There's not a proper way. There's a couple of two-word verses in the Bible. One of them is Jesus wept. And maybe you think about, the story about why he was weeping, and that just reminds you to just continue to dedicate your life, and that's your life's verse. That's great. Another one says, "Rejoice evermore." Maybe that's your life verse because you just held on to that one and just were reminded to not get caught up looking at the difficulties and mourning and weeping and being sad, but instead taking and rejoicing evermore. And so whatever your life verse is, that's great. Definitely, if you want, leave it in the comments. If there's a story you want to attach with it, please do. I have no hesitations with that. It's kind of awesome and encouraging when you hear some of the verses, and even more so when you hear the stories behind them for each individual person. For me, the verse I hold on to is Jeremiah 33:3, which says, "Call unto me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest not." Now, the reason I really like this verse, I'm going to bring up a couple verses before it as well, because again, it's the third verse of the chapter. But what's neat is when you look at the first two, the first verse says, "Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto Jeremiah the second time, while he was yet shut up in the court of the prison, saying." So it's telling you that Jeremiah, in this particular instance, was in despair, because he was in jail still, because it said he was yet shut up in the court of the prison. And this was the second time God's trying to get a hold of Jeremiah to get him a message. Then verse 2 said, "Thus saith the Lord, the maker thereof, the Lord that formed it to establish it, the Lord is his name." So 3 times Jeremiah is told who it is that's speaking. You think of being a parent, and when you tell your child, "Hey, there's a certain thing I expect for you to do," and it's like, "Well, why should I do that?" And it's like, "Because I'm your dad, or I'm your mom, or if you're at work, I'm your boss," or whatever the right situation would be, where the authority doesn't have to say a bunch. The fact that the word Lord was used here, I'm sure that's all that would have had to have been said to Jeremiah for him to know, oh, okay, this is God talking to me. But instead, it gave him three qualities of God to really get a hold of him. It said, thus saith the Lord, the maker thereof, the creator of the universe, the Lord that formed it to establish it, the Lord that had a reason and a purpose behind doing it, and the Lord is his name. Hey, there are stories told in the Bible where just the name of God being spoken had power behind it. So the fact that he said it three times and his third time, the Lord is his name. It's like, oh, okay, I got it. You're trying to tell me something. And it says, call unto me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest not. The first message I ever preached when I was a high schooler, I preached the message off of this passage, and just really short. The key part about call unto me, it was a command. I mean, there are other parts I had to it, but basically it was a command. We're told, talk to God. If you're in a relationship and you don't talk to that other person, you won't have a good relationship. I know recently I'm trying to work on communicating with my siblings more, because we all live I live so far away from them. And I told them one of the things is I felt really convicted of it, that I'm not communicating with them. And here I am, the older brother for them, and I'm doing a really poor job of it, if I'm transparent. So he said, call unto me. And then he made a promise, I will answer thee. All right. You know, in today's society, I'm sure you've sent a text message, or more applicably, probably at work, you send an email to somebody, and it seems like they take forever to respond, especially when you're waiting for that response in particular. And you're like, man, I really want that response. I really want that response. And then you finally get it. It's like, oh, thank you. God says, I will answer thee. Really quick, just remember, he doesn't always say yes to you. He may say no, and he may say not right now, which may sound like a no, but it may be a yes later on. But either way, he promises, I will answer thee. And not only that, I will show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest not. You know, when my daughter, I will sometimes, she's helped me, helping a friend out take care of their pets while they're away. And I took her with me, and she helps me out. And then on the way home, there's this little ice cream shop that she loves going to. She really, really, really wants to go to. And she had kept asking me these a few days ago. She had like 2 days in a row where she asked me like a couple times. And I joked around. I said, if you keep asking me, I'm not going to take you. And she's like, oh. And so when we were coming back after taking care of those pets, she was like, and she looked over and she sees it, but she doesn't say anything. And so I decided to turn into the parking lot. She goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to take you to go get some ice cream. And she's like, you don't have to do that. She goes, I know it's expensive. I'm like, hey, you're helping me out. It's perfectly fine. Let's go get some ice cream. And we got it. Now, what was neat was she did not come on that trip to get that ice cream, which she really wanted. She came on the trip to help me out. And in return, she was able to see something. Now, obviously, it's a silly comparison in that it's not some great and wonderful thing. You know, it's not a great and mighty thing. But for her, it was a nice thing. So God tells us, call unto me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest not. I'm going to go a little bit longer on this video here so I can tell you why it's so important to me. So I'm not going to make you wait for it. As a high schooler, there were many different times where, you know, I was in situations where I was deciding, do I want to live like a Christian or do I want to live like the world? And there were times where I didn't live the way I should, whether it was watching stuff, you know, watching movies or singing songs, or you know, I wasn't big on hanging out with the crowd. I just didn't hang out with a lot of people. But it was not living a dedicated, devoted life. And I came across a few situations where my faith was being tested. Was I really going to trust God to take care of me? To the point where I had someone who outright told me that he didn't believe in God. And he was an authority figure for me while I was at school. And a situation came up, I'm not going to hold you that long here, but a situation came up where there was a commitment I had made, and then I didn't want to keep the commitment. Well, with that commitment, there was a cost with it. And I remember just talking with a couple Christian friends of mine. They said, look, you got to pray that God's going to take care of you because he says he will. I said, okay. And we prayed about it. And come this one random day, well, I say random, it really wasn't, but I come this one random day where I come across this authority that said they didn't believe in God. And the comment they made to me said, hey, I want to let you know that if there is a God, he took care of the bill that you had, the commitment you had, and you no longer have to worry about it. And I would just look at him like, excuse me? And he's like, yeah, that's if he exists, he was the one that took care of you. And ended up not having that bill that was no longer something I had to be responsible for. Take it one step further, I now had time available to which I was invited on a trip. There was a Christian school at the church I attended, and that school would take college trips for their juniors and seniors. And the week I would have been gone with this commitment, I now had open, and that was the week they were going on this trip. And I said, well, I don't have any money. They said, someone already took care of it if you decide to go. And long story made short, I got to visit the school that I ended up going to and attending and making a lot of friendships and honestly growing in my faith and growing in my life and honestly meeting very influential people in my life that look, a lot of great things in my life I wouldn't have experienced if I was not attending that school. So there were a lot of pieces, and that was a great and mighty thing to me. So anywho, Jeremiah 33, I'll say all three verses again just as kind of a nice little story. Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto Jeremiah the second time, while he was yet shut up in the court of the prison, saying, Thus saith the Lord, the maker thereof, the Lord that formed it to establish it, the Lord is his name. Call unto me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and mighty things which thou knowest not. That's my life verse. Thank you so much for taking the time. Sorry I kept you a little bit later, but hopefully it was an encouragement to you. Again, if you've got a life verse or and a story with it, please feel free to drop it in the comments. If you just have a life verse, please feel free to drop that in the comments. Just want to say hi, whatever. Just try to keep it uplifting as best as possible. I thank you for taking the time to come visit and hope that you have a great rest of your day. Signing off until the next time.